Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. This is a quick tip video on if you're having problems with your E46 in terms of any electrical issues going on towards the rear of the car. So in the trunk there's a loom that goes from the body to the trunk that sends power to the license plate lights, the reverse lights, and even the trunk latch. So if you're having issues with any of those, this is going to help you out in terms of troubleshooting what might be going on. So this car right here, if you press the trunk button, if you do any of this, none of that works. The license plate lights sometimes work, sometimes they don't. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what to check for. So here's the loom that I'm talking about. It goes from the body all the way up to the trunk through this rubber thing. And you can see these lights are not working either unless you're touching them. You see how they're going in and out. So the main reason that happens is because there's something that's shorting out in here. So there's a bunch of wires that go through here, and when you're closing and opening it, sometimes they stretch, sometimes they get caught, and they start breaking. So what we're gonna have to do is cut this rubber protection off. Just put a slit through the whole thing, and see which wires are shorting out, which ones are stripped, and repair all those wires. So some people are gonna ask, why don't you just pull the grommet off and figure out which wire is stripped, which one's not? So when you do that, the wire is almost the perfect length for it to be fully extended. In order for you to find the short, you're gonna have to cut this loom open to see where the short is at. You know, if you pull this off like this, you get the wire from up there, but you can see it back here is still protected. You see how tight the rubber protection is around these cables? If you try to pull these cables off of the protection, you're gonna end up doing more damage than is already there. So your best bet is to cut it, and then if you want to reseal it, you can use electrical tape, some kind of black silicone adhesive, anything like that to reseal this protection back on. So I finished cutting this rubber protection, and I was able to separate the wires, and you can see there's two ground wires right here that have separated. This wire right here is starting to get separated, and then you have another one down here that's also starting to separate. So what we're going to do is we're going to repair these wires. What you want to do is you want to get some solder, get some extra wire. If you can find the right color, that would be great. Otherwise, just try to find some color that you can distinguish which one goes to what. And all you have to do is just join these wires together. Ideally, like I said, you want to solder it, but if you don't have any solder, you can use a crimp connector or something like that. Make sure you get some heat shrink so that way you can seal these cables after you've soldered or joined them together. That way they don't short against anything else. And another thing you want to check is after you're done with this, if it is this bad, make sure you go and disconnect the battery before you start doing any work. That way you don't end up blowing any fuses. And just in case you already have blown any fuses, after you're done with this repair, go check all the fuses, replace whichever ones are burnt out, and then go from there. Alright, so I got some more wire that matched up with the grounds that were broken, soldered everything together. I pretty much cut one end, so the parts that were frayed, I cut that off, stripped it back, did the same thing on the other side, and then added new wire, soldered it on this end, soldered it on that end, put heat shrink, and then put electric tape all around it. And I also taped up the entire loom wherever it was breaking. That way there's a little bit more cushion there so it won't break again. Now we're just going to put this rubber protection back on it, and then we're going to tape that whole rubber protection up. That way there's no water or anything that gets into where we cut it open. Alright, so if you unhooked your battery, go ahead and hook it back up. Make sure everything's working. Already did all that. Now we're going to put these grommets back to where they belong. They'll just push right in. And there you have it. Make sure you check all the fuses one more time. Make sure everything's working, and make sure everything's nice and sealed so no water gets in. So if you have this issue again, now you know where to look. And if that doesn't solve your issue, you can also trace the wiring back up the trunk a little more. pull off these rubber push pins so you can trace the wires further back or even go further into the trunk. So check all the wiring, more than likely that's where your issue's at. So anyways, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos.